This
Rocket Child.
is Rocket Child.
Rocket Child. Rocket Child. It's Rocket Child.
Rocket Child. Yeah.
What's up, Star Chasers, and welcome to another drawing video. I did this illustration on Twitch as a live stream. For this one, I decided to do a fan art of Moroha from Yashahime. For those of you who don't know, Yashahime is the sequel to an anime called Inuyasha, which I was really into in 2004. I've been enjoying watching the show. It's also a bit weird seeing it again, or rather seeing the sequel after like so many years. It's really fun. I noticed that a lot of artists like to do fake screenshots or drawings from shows they like and adding the subtitles on top to make it look like their style is part of the show. So I figured I'd give it a go as well. In this scene, Moroha uses her special, lipstick, and it allows her to power up and turn into the demon Inuyasha. And in the screenshot to the right, you can see like she's got red demon energy surrounding her. So the way I chose to approach this drawing was to have the screenshot on the right of the screen and then have my canvas on the left. That way I can copy the general shapes of the illustration and also use it as reference for the colors. After a while, I found that it was too distracting and had to close that window because I kept focusing too much on the original art style. When I had just the canvas open, I was able to focus on the illustration more according to my art style. The face was a little bit hard in this situation. I think the proportions and the angle wasn't right. So in the end, I had to go over, adjust the facial features and also the shape of the hair to get it into proportion again. Often you'll see me drawing with bright colors such as red, green, or blue, and usually that's my way of seeing the lines clearly. For example, if I want to redraw lines on top of other ones, I don't want to draw black on black, otherwise I won't know the difference. So I'll use a bright colored brush to go over the areas I want to add detail and then change it back to the line art color. Once all the line art is finished, I'm coloring in the general shapes of the body. I still have the original screenshot available so I can use it as reference for colors, but also I'm giving myself permission to choose my own colors as well. Once that's done, I'm adding in the shadows and the highlights. A lot of professional graphic designers and artists like to name their layers, which is very useful if you are collaborating and working with other people. For me, I prefer to color in my layers instead of naming them. So on the right hand side, you can see I have a gray layer, so that's how I differentiate the line art. I have the orange layers, which are the main colors, the yellow layers, which are the highlights, and the purple layers are the shadows usually. So that way I can tell which layer is which based on first glance. I can also change the blending modes of a folder. For example, if I have the purple folder with shadows, I can change the blending mode to multiply so that every shadow layer in that folder is in multiply. That way, instead of color picking each individual darker shade for the shadows, I can use a single tone, use the multiply effect, and that same color can be the shadow for pretty much the entire illustration. For the flaming aura effect, I decided to experiment a little bit. I wanted it to look like flames were rising. So instead of having thick outlines, I wanted it to be more atmospheric. So I created the outline shapes of flames and used that as a template, and then started coloring in the flames with shades of red, yellow, and orange, and lightly erasing around the edges so they looked very wispy. I made a variation of different flame shapes so that they could be surrounding Moroha, and then I changed the blending modes to make it look a little bit more translucent, transparent, so the flames would be an aura as opposed to something that was really opaque and kind of standing in the way. And because of the flames, I didn't want to just have ordinary light and shadows happening. I wanted some of the highlights to be really bright to match the aura. At first, I figured I'd make normal colored flames like red and yellow, so I'm making the highlights yellow here. But later, after I experiment with different colors, I decide to have the flames be pink. So in the end, you'll see that the highlights change from being yellow to being pink. The background for this scene was very simple. Moroha is standing next to the Bone Eater's well, and you can just see the dirt ground around. So I didn't want to put too much detail into the background. Instead, I used very thick painterly style brushes to blend in and create the soil and earthy effects, and then using different grass brushes to add some texture to the ground. Once that was done, I blurred the different background elements so that way your eye was still focusing on the main character without getting too distracted by the background details. At this point, I realized that the pink color suited the scene better than red. It matched the tones of the background and the tones of Moroha's clothing better. So I start adding atmospheric glows around the flames so that way it's surrounding her as opposed to just standing, just floating around her. So a lot of the stuff towards the end is atmospheric effects, making sure the line art is a bit softer than intense black, having the glowing interact with the background and with Moroha, the character. At this point, I'm adding in my own fake subtitles as well, and then doing what I usually like to do, which is copying like an old TV style effect where you add noise grain and displace the colors so that it has a little bit of a grainy TV effect to it. All of this is not necessary, but I find the little details add a nice touch and add a lot of texture and effects. I'm pretty happy with it. Compared to the old Inuyasha fan art I used to do, I gotta say I've gotten a lot better through the years. If you have any ideas for fan art in the future, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just, figure things out based on what I've watched. If you're wondering about the little characters they call streaming avatars, if you attend the live stream, you have the ability to control the little characters and have them interact with you and each other. For me, I like having them as a company as I draw. I think they're pretty cute. Anyway, if you enjoy watching me draw, please subscribe and press the bell icon to get the updates to see more drawing and art videos in the future. Also, I post my finished artwork on Instagram usually, so please follow me there if you want to see the finished artworks and such. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.